So these three slides are going to go over some very important things from topic 8 that will lead to World War II. And since we're kind of rolling topic 8 and 9 together, you need to understand these three to understand the causes of World War II. So nationalism is our first thing, and we've gone through nationalism a few times, and it is at the simplest, it's just pride in your country. But it's not just a simple pride in your country. It is you saying that your country is number one. And not only are you thinking it, you want to prove that your country is number one. So nationalism can be centered around your people's culture, the religion, the ethnicity, usually all three rolled in together. And sometimes it can be good because it can help unify a nation to kind of all push for the same goal or to get self-determination, that idea that groups of people should rule themselves and decide their own future. The negative side of nationalism that we're going to see mostly with World War II is a nation begins to believe it's the best nation and it begins to compete with other nations to prove it. So we have Nazi Germany and their ideas about Aryan superiority, Italy wanting to rebuild Italian glory, Japan wanting to rebuild its empire, and we call those ultra-nationalists. They don't only want to believe they're number one, they're going to go out and prove it, and they're going to take things to secure their nation. So fascism is our next kind of system that's going to arise. And fascism is technically an economic system, but a lot of times it's going to bleed over into government. And a fascist government is a centralized authoritarian government that is not communist. I know that definition doesn't seem great, but there's no really clear definition on what fascism is. So one, it's centralized. All power usually resides in either one person or the central government. But two, it's authoritarian. 90% of the time, 99.99% of the time, a fascist government is going to be a dictatorship. One of their basic ideas is that the state, so the government, state means government, is more important than an individual. So your duty is to your government. That's kind of the idea in fascism. You do what's good for the government, what's good for the people. They're usually very destructive to basic human rights in a country. This is because if you're doing something that is harming the government or harming the people, at least what the fascists think is harming the people, you're usually going to be imprisoned or killed. The features of nationalism, they're extremely the fascism, they're extremely nationalistic. Usually how a fascist state begins is it rallies around that idea of we are all Germans, they are all Italians. Loyalty to the state. So again, loyalty to the government. You're supposed to have unquestioning loyalty to whatever the government does. They're very aggressive. Usually fascist countries are willing to go to war to take over areas and resources they need. Because of that, they glorify warfare. You're going to see that a lot of fascist countries, men's job is to be a soldier for their country. And they don't like democracy. Fascists usually do not like democracy because democracy focuses on the individual voting for what they believe is right, for what they want. And fascists are all about community of the nation as a whole. So fascists say that democracy destroys that community and damages the nation. Our next system that's going to play an important part in World War II is going to be communism. Communism is an economic system, but again, it kind of bleeds over into government. So communism is an authoritarian government, again, where all economic decisions are made by the government. They use command economies. So a command economy is where everything is run in an economy by the government. Again, they're going to be destructive to basic human rights because if you are in a communist society, everybody is equal no matter what. That's the idea, at least. And if you usually disagree with the communist society, like with Stalin's USSR, you're going to be eliminated or sent to a prison camp for re-education. So the features of communism during this time is nationalism is not important. They don't care about nationalism. You're all communists. That's their idea. You're all supposed to be united because you're communist. Loyalty to the Communist Party is what is emphasized. So the armies, to kind of show this, in communist nations, they aren't actually the country's army. They're the Communist Party's army. So you're supposed to be loyal to communism first before your nation. They use aggressive expansionism. Communists usually want to flip the nations around them to communism. They usually have a state police force that controls the population. They open letters, they open mail, they bug phones. There is not a lot of freedom in communist societies. And they're anti-capitalist. Communists believe that capitalism takes advantage of workers and is corrupt, so they need to destroy capitalism and replace it with communism. They're usually also anti-democratic because the Communist Party is the only party allowed in that country, and they don't have totally free elections.